Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about some newish 9-pan palettes that are coming to the ColourPop site this Saturday. So these are launching on the ColourPop site on November 27th. These were previously Ulta exclusive. They're the little holiday 9-pans, and now they are coming to ColourPop, which is great because there's a sale, and that means that our international friends will be able to get their hands on them. Typically, these 9-pan palettes in the cardboard packaging are priced at $14 US. However, because they're launching during a site-wide sale for Cyber Week, these should be priced at $9.80 a piece when they launch. Now, if you're watching this video or shopping outside of the Cyber Week sale, you will be able to use a discount code to save a little bit on any purchases that aren't already on sale. So you can always use my code Amanda. This will save you 10% on most things on the ColourPop site. Just make sure you keep an eye on your cart totals because you don't want to cancel out a better deal if something's on sale. Now, let's take a look at each one of these palettes in depth, up close. I'm going to give you the rundown on the finishes, the shades. We're going to do finger and brush swatches. I'm also going to show you comparisons for each one of these palettes. Because there are 4, I'm not going to be able to do a ton of comparisons for each one, but I will show you a handful and sort of give you my thoughts on other things that may be similar as well. My arm is already a little bit stained because I did just do the swatches for the Smoke and Roses palette, so trying to strike a good balance here. Let's take a look at these palettes up close and personal now. Let's start with the Bling Time palette. First, we're going to take a close-up look at the outer packaging. As you can see, the box and the palette itself have the exact same artwork. However, on the back, you'll see that the outer packaging has the ingredients list and the palette itself does not have that. We'll take a look at the back here to see the eye safety warnings. Anything with a star has a not intended for eye area label placed there by ColourPop. And I do have a whole video explaining why these exist, what the different ones are for, and how to handle those. So I will link a video down in the description box so you can check that out just to keep yourself informed, safe, healthy, happy. Taking a look inside here at this Bling Time palette, we see 5 mattes, 3 shimmers, and then 1 pressed glitter. That's the one that has that little eye safety warning. And when you see these all swatched out, the finger swatches are on top and brush swatches are below. I just don't brush swatch the glitters. They don't apply well with a brush, and frankly, I don't want to get a bunch of glitter particles all stuck in my swatch brush. I think the main thing that stands out to me are the similarities between the light shimmers and the peachy mattes in this palette. Not a ton of variety, especially for a 9-pan palette, but we're going to look at some swatch comparisons. First one I thought of for the 9-pans was the Baby Got Peach palette, and Baby Got Peach is a lot more peachy, as it should be, but Bling Time has a little bit more neutral shades thrown in there. However, if the Bling Time little peachy shades are what's appealing to you, then you may already have those shades covered if you also have Baby Got Peach. Now, Sweet Talk palette is the first thing I thought of when I saw this. The color scheme is really similar. Sweet Talk just has a little bit more color variety, where Bling Time has just peach and neutral. Sweet Talk has that little yellow. It has a more variety of depth in the darker colors, darker shimmer. So here's the surprise comparison for me, because I think it's the most similar, and that's the It's a Mood palette. This is pretty darn close, and when it comes to looks on the eye, It's a Mood is really going to be pretty close to Bling Time. For each one of these palettes, I'll do 1 9-pan, 1 12-pan, and 1 mega palette, just to give us a little structure. Next up is a little pinky palette called Glam Right. The artwork is really cohesive across all 4 of these palettes. It's pretty much the exact same styling, just with little color tweaks to coordinate with the shades inside. And taking a look back here, we do only have one eye safety warning for this Glam Right palette, and this is going to be a pigment warning instead of a pressed glitter warning because that shade to the max that has the little asterisk there is a really bright pink. As is typical of the cardboard packaged palettes, these are a heavy-duty cardboard with a magnetic closure, and they do not have mirrors in any of these palettes. Looking inside at the shades here, there are 5 mattes, 4 shimmers, no pressed glitters, and also no mattes with glitter. I like that they've thrown in a couple of more cooler tone shades in here, especially that one Le Chic. It's really a very neutral cool tone, which is not something they usually do with their pink palettes. So I find that to be an interesting idea. However, overall, I find this palette to be lacking a little bit of depth. It seems like it's really only light and mid-tone shades, so I wish that they had gone a little bit deeper with some of the shades in this particular palette. For the comparisons, I had quite a few pink palettes to choose from. I decided to go with Cloud Spun for the 9-pan palette, although I do think that you could find a fair bit of overlap in other 9-pans that they've released, particularly the Ooh La La palette, which is kind of an OG of the 9-pans. I think you could find a decent amount of overlap in that one as well. But because this Glam Right palette is so light, I decided to go with Cloud Spun for the 9-pan for this one. Now, Bye Bye Birdie may not be what you first expected for this palette, but I think that this is a pretty decent comparison overall. I really thought of this because of those lighter pinky mattes and that little cool tone moment. I know in Bye Bye Birdie it's a shimmer, but I think there's a pretty decently similar color story overall in that one. However, once again, the Mega palette just came out and surprised me. This is the new Smoke and Roses palette, and this is undeniably incredibly similar. I would say maybe only 2 or 3 shades are noticeably different, but the Smoke and Roses palette definitely has you covered for these colors. Now we're going to take a look at the Locket Down palette. If you know me, you know I love a good purple eyeshadow, so I'm always happy to see a purple option. This one's called Locket Down. However, purple pigments do typically run the risk of having that eye safety warning. There are 2 shades in this palette that have that dark reddish purple type of pigment to it. I especially love the little flowers and jewels theme in the purple tones for this one, but I'm just a sucker for purple. Once again, no mirror in here. As far as the finishes go, there's no pressed glitter, there's 1 matte with glitter, 3 mattes, and I say 4-ish shimmers because that first shade called Memento, it feels like a hybrid between a plain shimmer metallic shadow and a very, very fine glitter. It's not a super chunky pressed glitter. I can definitely pick it up and apply it with my brush, but it's a much different texture than these straight up metallic shimmers that we're used to seeing. So I just wanted to make sure that I made a note of that for you. It doesn't have a eye safety warning or anything, but it's just something to note in a review especially. When it comes to the comparisons, there were quite a lot of purpley options for me to choose from. I decided to go with Making Mauves because this Locket Down palette does have so many of those lighter, more cool toned colors, and as you can see here, it's a pretty decent comparison. Those 3 brighter shades on the end could probably be comparable to something in the Lilac You a Lot or maybe the Orchid You Not or something like that, but overall this is the most similar color story. And that made me think that I needed to compare this to the Flutterby palette, which is also more of that lighter, more cool toned kind of purpley color scheme. Again, not quite hitting those darker shades, but you could probably find some overlap for those in the Bye Bye Birdie palette. If you have Flutterby and Bye Bye Birdie, you could make this color story easily. Yet again, Smoke and Roses is popping up. This is a great Mega palette comparison, and I think this is super, super similar. Really just a handful of differences here, particularly in those deeper magenta purple shades, but I do think that those exist elsewhere in the ColourPop line for sure. And lastly, we have the Charm School palette. I anticipate that this Charm School palette will be one of the most popular of the set of 4. Even though it is the most neutral, it has an interesting mix of warm, neutral, brown, gold type of things and some gray cool tone colors. There's no eye safety warnings in here, so I always love that. When we take a look inside, we do have a variety of finishes here. There are only 2 true mattes, there are 4 shimmers, and then there are 3 mattes with glitter. So the shades Romper, Grace, and Co are all those sequin shades, mattes with little micro glitters. Romper is the most subtle of those sequin shades. And when you take a look here, you can barely even see the shimmers in that shade. More so pronounced in Grace, and then that very last shade, the glittery black shade, it's pretty noticeable. Even though this palette is only neutral shades, I had the hardest time coming up with good comparisons for this one because it is such a mix of basic warm neutrals and basic cool neutrals. So I just did my best to try to find a balance here, and I think that any mix of these palettes is really going to give you a similar type of color story. The Of Quartz palette is a lot more cool toned, but a decent amount of overlap here, especially with that really cool pewter silvery shade. There's not quite as much overlap in my 12 pan palette comparison as I'd hoped. I went with the Good as Gold palette, and there's enough similarities here, but Good as Gold is just so much more yellow and it's really lacking those cooler gray tones. But I think that Good as Gold and Of Quartz, or even the third comparison I'm going to show you, the Stone Cold Fox palette, any combination of these palettes is going to give you some similar looks. However, if you've been waiting for a mix of warm and cool tones, then maybe Charm School is the perfect thing that you've been waiting for to really have that color story distilled down. But just keep in mind, if you already have a few neutral palettes, then you probably already have this color story in your collection. I'm going to be honest, when it comes to these little 9-pan palettes, I think I like the packaging more than I like the actual shades inside. The performance is fine, the shades are fine, they're just not really doing that much to get me excited. Based on the comparisons, I think you can tell these are pretty standard shades from what we've seen from ColourPop before. Now, everybody under the sun does not have every single ColourPop palette, I realize that, and so for somebody who's been sort of waiting for that perfect mix, or waiting for a more condensed version perhaps of a 12-pan palette that you've had your eye on, these could be the perfect thing for you. It's not that I particularly dislike them, I'm just not feeling as inspired by them as I have been by other previous releases. But the quality is there, the packaging is there. For me, honestly, I really like this little floral with pops of metallic motif that the outer packaging has. It feels cute, it's just festive enough to make sense for the holidays, but it's not something that's going to make me feel pigeonholed into one time of year. So these are kind of middle of the road for me, but I can see them being the perfect thing for somebody. Now's the time when I want to hear what you think about these palettes. Are you interested? Have you finally found that perfect right combination of shades with these? I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Boop, 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 boop. Sorry, I'll get it together. Not saying it'll be soon, but it'll probably happen. I mean, it's purple, so obviously I like it. Hello. Ooh. This highlighter is really giving me the casually sweaty cheek I'm looking for. It's the NARS Fort de France highlighter. I have been reaching for it constantly lately. It just looks So pretty and fresh, and it's expensive, but it looks really good, if I do say so myself. I struggled so much for comparisons for this because it's like, do you go for the 3 gray shades? Most of the palette is just warm neutrals, but most people are going to be just looking at the gray. So what do you do with that? You know? I tried my best to find a balance. I swear, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Do you ever feel that way? Where you're just like, I know there's something I'm supposed to be doing right now, but yet you're not doing it. Then maybe it's just a symptom of a really busy week. Sometimes that happens. By the way, I'm wearing the new Mega palette. There's a tutorial in my previous video. I really like this. I think I like this more than these 9-pan palettes. I actually have had these for a really long time, and I just didn't even get around to making a video about them because I was just feeling meh, you know? But this, whew, these shimmers are so pretty. Just, instead of me sitting here and telling you about it, I do have a video on this one too, so you could just go check that out if you're curious. But spoiler alert, this palette's really cute. It's really good. 9-pan palette. Bring me my 9-pan. That's me. If I was a king, that's what I would be proclaiming. Lots to see, lots to do, lots to bake, lots to celebrate. This is a crazy week for me. It's not just the holidays. First of all, busy with work. Run an Etsy shop, Black Friday sale. Also Thanksgiving, I'm hosting and cooking most of everything. The day before Thanksgiving is my wedding anniversary. The day after Thanksgiving is my birthday. This is the single busiest week of my year probably. Which is fun, you know, it's a lot of fun stuff. It's just tired. I need a nap and a stiff drink. But I mean, who doesn't? Really. Not sure when I'm going to be able to post this because I don't know when I'm going to have time to edit it. But I hope that it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a happy holiday season. If you're having a holiday season. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just having a regular season. Either way, I hope that it's a happy one. And if it's not, we're here for you. We support you. We love your face. And it'll probably get better tomorrow. And if it doesn't, just take a nap and have a stiff drink. That's terrible advice. Anyway, that all boils down to say I appreciate you and I love your face. Okay, bye.